It was one of those warm afternoons when the sun hung lazily over the town, and the air carried the smell of cut grass from the nearby football field. The final school bell had just rung, and the narrow street outside the school gates filled with students. Some laughed, some ran toward waiting buses, and a few stood around chatting, not ready to head home yet. Among them was a quiet schoolgirl about 15, holding a stack of books that looked too heavy for her small arms. She wore glasses that kept sliding down her nose, and her backpack hung by one strap. She always walked home alone, keeping her eyes on the ground, avoiding the noisy group that usually teased her for being too shy. That day, she was running a little late because she had stayed behind to help her teacher tidy up the classroom. She didn't mind staying back. In fact, she liked the peace that came after everyone left. But by the time she reached the gate, most students were already gone, and only a few were hanging around near the sidewalk. She adjusted her backpack and started walking when a loud roar echoed from the corner. A motorcycle turned sharply onto the street, the engine growling so loudly that a few kids covered their ears. It was a black bike, shiny and powerful, with thick tires and silver pipes that glimmered under the sun. The rider, wearing a leather jacket and dark glasses, looked like someone who wanted attention. He pulled up near the school gate, revved the engine a few more times, and smirked as the younger kids stared in awe. The noise alone was enough to make everyone look. The girl tried to move past quietly, hoping not to draw attention, but fate had other plans. Her book slipped from her hands, scattering across the pavement. She bent down quickly to pick them up, her hair falling over her face. That small moment caught the biker's eye. He leaned slightly on his bike and called out in a teasing tone, "Hey, careful there, don't drop the library!" A few of the nearby students chuckled nervously. She kept her head down, pretending not to hear. But the biker wasn't done. He kicked the stand down, stepped off the bike, and walked closer. His heavy boots thudded against the concrete. "You in a hurry or something? You dropped half your books?" He smirked, looking at her torn backpack and old shoes. "Guess school doesn't teach balance, huh?" The laughter grew louder now. Some of the students, unsure how to react, joined in, not because they wanted to, but because it was easier than speaking up. The girl's hands trembled as she gathered her books one by one, her throat tightening with every giggle behind her. She tried to speak, but no words came out. "Hey, don't ignore me," the biker said, tilting his head. "You think you're better than me or what?" His tone had a mocking edge. He wasn't yelling, but his words carried weight enough to sting. The girl stood up slowly, clutching her books to her chest. Her eyes glistened, but she forced herself not to cry. She muttered softly, "I just want to go home." He chuckled. "Well, maybe try not to trip over your own feet next time." He turned toward his bike, revved the engine again, and laughed as he rode away, leaving behind a trail of dust in the echo of his laughter. The moment he disappeared, silence fell. A teacher who had just come out of the gate saw the girl standing there frozen. She rushed to her and asked, "Are you okay?" The girl nodded weakly, though her voice shook when she spoke. "I'm fine." But she wasn't. She walked away slowly, pretending not to care, but the humiliation burned deep inside. The few kids who had laughed earlier now avoided looking at her, ashamed but too afraid to say anything. She turned the corner and kept walking until the school disappeared from view. Only then did she let the tears fall. What she didn't know was that someone else had seen the whole thing from across the street. A small crowd had gathered outside the community center where a local charity event was taking place. Among the volunteers helping organize the event was a tall man wearing a cap and casual clothes, blending in quietly. He had been signing a few autographs earlier for the kids who recognized him. Now his attention was fixed on what had just happened near the school gate. He watched the biker's arrogance, the laughter, and the girl's quiet pain. His jaw tightened slightly. He didn't move right away. He just stood there, thoughtful, watching her disappear down the road. For him, moments like that were hard to ignore. He had seen enough people use their strength to belittle others. It was something that always hit close to home. The afternoon went on as if nothing had happened. But that small incident stayed in the air, like a note that refused to fade. The girl reached home, placed her books on her small wooden desk, and sat silently for a long time. Her mother asked from the kitchen, "Rough day?" She forced a smile and replied, "Just tired." She didn't tell her what had happened. She didn't want to worry her. Meanwhile, the biker rode around town feeling proud, telling himself it was just a harmless joke. He stopped by a diner, parked his bike outside, and ordered a coffee. He sat near the window scrolling through his phone, posting a selfie with the caption, "Owning the road as always." A few friends commented with laughing emojis. He grinned. He didn't realize that sometimes small actions can leave deep marks on others. At that same diner, a young volunteer from the charity event walked in, carrying a box of flyers. She recognized him immediately, not as someone famous, but as the man from the event earlier. She had also seen the scene outside the school. She looked uncomfortable as she passed by his table, mumbling under her breath, "Not funny." He frowned but didn't say anything. Maybe he didn't even understand what she meant. Back at the community center, the tall man who had witnessed everything, Cena, was helping pack up sports gear for the next day's program. But his mind wasn't fully there. He kept replaying the moment in his head. The biker's mocking grin, the girl's trembling hands, the sound of that laughter echoing across the street. He knew he couldn't just let it go. As the sun dipped lower, painting the sky orange, Cena spoke quietly to one of the organizers, asking about the diner nearby. He didn't explain why. He just said he needed to step out for a bit. Across town, the girl's mother knocked on her door gently. "Dinner's ready," she said softly. The girl wiped her face, straightened her books again, and forced a small smile. Coming. She didn't know that at that same moment, the man who had seen her pain was walking toward the place where the biker sat, unaware that his small act of mockery was about to bring a lesson he would never forget. The streets had grown quieter now. The air was cooler, and the smell of food drifted out from the diner windows. Cena pushed open the door and stepped inside. The biker was still sitting by the window, sipping his coffee, laughing at something on his phone. He didn't notice who had entered. Cena walked over to the counter, ordered a water, and took a seat at the table beside him. For a moment, neither said a word. Cena simply watched him, not with anger, but with calm curiosity, as if trying to understand what made someone behave that way. The biker finally looked up, noticed who was sitting next to him, and froze for a second. "Wait, you're—" Cena smiled faintly and nodded. "Yeah," the biker blinked, clearly surprised. "Man, I'm a huge fan," he said quickly. "Didn't expect to see you here." Cena didn't respond right away. He took a sip of water, then said, "I saw what happened at the school earlier." The biker's smile faded. He shifted uncomfortably, trying to laugh it off. "Oh, that? Just kidding around. No harm done." Cena leaned slightly forward. His voice stayed calm, almost gentle. "You think she laughed?" The biker hesitated, looking down. "It was just a joke," he muttered. Cena's eyes didn't waver. Jokes aren't funny when they hurt someone who can't fight back. For the first time, the biker didn't know what to say. He looked away, his fingers tapping the table nervously. Cena stood up slowly, placed a few bills on the counter, and said quietly, "Strength isn't about making others feel weak. Remember that." Then he walked out, leaving the biker staring after him, silent and uneasy. Outside, the streetlights flickered on. The night had fallen softly over the small town. Cena looked back once at the school across the road, empty now, peaceful again, and then walked away into the fading light. He didn't know it yet, but that small act of stepping in would change more than one person's life. The next morning started with soft sunlight spilling through the classroom windows. The air still carried a little chill from the night before, and everything felt calm, as if nothing unusual had happened. But for the girl, the memory of yesterday was still sharp in her mind. She woke up early, packed her bag carefully, and made sure nothing would fall out this time. Her backpack strap was still torn, but she had stitched it a little, hoping it would hold. When she reached school, she could feel a few eyes on her. Some of her classmates whispered quietly, pretending to talk about something else when she passed by. No one had said sorry for laughing. No one had said anything at all. It was like they all agreed to forget it, to act like nothing happened, but she hadn't forgotten. In the hallway, her teacher gave her a kind smile and asked gently, "You feeling better today?" The girl nodded, though her heart was heavy. "Yes, ma'am. I'm okay." The teacher didn't press further. Sometimes silence is easier when you don't know what to say. Across town, Cena was sitting in his hotel room with a cup of coffee, reading messages on his phone. His charity event had gone well, but his thoughts were somewhere else. The image of that biker mocking the girl replayed in his head. He wasn't angry. He'd seen things like that before. but something about the way she stood there trying not to cry had stayed with him. He picked up his phone and called one of the event organizers. "Hey," he said, "do you happen to know the name of the high school near the community center?" The organizer replied, a bit surprised. "Yeah, that's Westbrook High. Why?" "I just want to visit there today," Cena said simply. "Maybe talk to the students about something important." A few hours later, he arrived at the school, wearing a plain blue shirt and a baseball cap pulled low. He didn't want the visit to be about him being famous. He wanted it to feel normal, like an ordinary man coming to share something real. When he entered the school office, the principal's eyes widened in surprise. "Oh my goodness," she said with a smile. "John Cena, right?" "We weren't expecting," he interrupted politely. "Please, no big introductions. I just wanted to talk to some of the students. Maybe about self-respect, kindness, that kind of thing." The principal nodded quickly. "Of course. We'd love that." The students would be thrilled. Within half an hour, word spread like wildfire. Students gathered in the school auditorium, buzzing with excitement. The same girl sat near the back, unsure what was happening. She didn't even know why she felt nervous. When Cena walked onto the small stage, the room erupted in cheers. But he didn't raise his hands or flex his arms like people expected. He smiled warmly and waited for the noise to fade. Then he began to speak. Not as a celebrity, but as a human being. "I know most of you probably know me from TV," he said. "But today I'm not here as a wrestler or an actor. I'm here as someone who understands what it feels like to be laughed at, to feel small." The students grew quiet. Even the teachers leaned forward. "When I was younger," he continued, "I wasn't the biggest kid. I got bullied a lot. People made fun of my clothes, my voice, my dreams. I still remember one guy who used to trip me in the hallway every day. And the worst part wasn't falling. It was hearing everyone laugh." The girl sitting in the back lifted her head slowly. Her heart started to beat faster. "But here's the thing," Cena said softly. "The laughter fades, but what you do about it, that's what shapes you. You can let it break you, or you can let it teach you. And the people who laugh at others, they're usually fighting something inside themselves." The room was completely silent now. No one moved. No one whispered. It was one of those rare moments when every word felt heavy with truth. Then Cena added something unexpected. "Yesterday I saw something outside this school. A man with a motorcycle stopped right over there near your gate. Some of you were there too." A few heads turned nervously. The girl's chest tightened. She looked down at her shoes. "I watched him mock a student," he continued, his voice calm but steady. "I saw some of you laugh along. Maybe it felt funny at the moment. Maybe you didn't think much of it. But to that person, it wasn't funny. It hurt." The silence grew deeper. Even the air seemed still. "I didn't come here to scold anyone," Cena said. "I came because I believe every single person here has the power to choose who they want to be. You can be the one who laughs, or the one who helps someone stand back up." A few students lowered their heads, ashamed. The girl looked up again, her eyes wide. She hadn't expected anyone, especially someone like him, to care. Cena's tone softened. "I also met that man afterward," he said, "and I told him something I'll tell all of you. Strength isn't about muscles or attitude. It's about kindness. If you can use your strength to make someone smile instead of making them feel small, that's real power." When he finished, the entire hall stayed quiet for a few long seconds. Then a few students started clapping. The applause grew louder, echoing across the walls. Cena smiled humbly and waved a little. He wasn't looking for applause. He was just happy the message had landed where it needed to. After the talk ended, the principal thanked him warmly. Students rushed to take pictures, but Cena politely refused most of them, saying, "Maybe later. Today's about learning something, not selfies." As he walked out of the building, he noticed the same girl standing near the doorway, holding her books tightly. She looked like she wanted to say something but couldn't find the courage. Cena walked up to her and smiled. "Hey," he said gently. "You're doing okay?" She nodded slowly. I didn't think anyone saw." "I did," he said softly. "And I'm proud of how you handled it. You didn't fight back, but you stayed strong. That takes more courage than most people think." Her eyes filled with tears again, but this time they weren't from pain. "Thank you," she whispered. He smiled and said, "Keep your head up, all right? People remember kindness, even those who hurt you. Sometimes they just need a reminder." She nodded, wiping her face, and watched as he walked away. That short exchange felt like 1,000 unspoken words. For the first time since yesterday, she felt a bit lighter, as if someone had lifted a heavy weight from her shoulders. Meanwhile, the biker was back at the diner again, sitting at the same window seat. But something had changed. He hadn't been able to sleep properly since last night. Cena's words kept echoing in his mind. Strength isn't about making others feel weak. He stirred his coffee, staring blankly outside. Every time he thought about the girl's face, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Guilt. It wasn't the kind that fades in a few hours. It was the kind that makes you look at yourself differently. When a group of kids on bicycles passed by the window, laughing and chasing each other, he couldn't help but think about how young they were, how easily small words could shape them. He leaned back in his chair and sighed. For once, he didn't like the man staring back at him from the reflection on the glass. That afternoon, he made a decision. He didn't know exactly how, but he wanted to fix what he'd done. He didn't want to be remembered as the man who mocked a kid. At the same time, Cena sat in his car outside the school parking lot, looking at the busy street. He had done what he could, but he felt it wasn't finished yet. He believed that change only truly happens when the person who did wrong chooses to make things right. He hoped the biker would find that strength. Back inside the school, the girl's classmates slowly began approaching her. One of them, a tall boy who had laughed the loudest yesterday, came up and said quietly, "Hey, sorry about yesterday. That was messed up." She looked at him, surprised, and nodded. "It's okay." Another girl added, "We shouldn't have laughed. That guy was a jerk." For the first time, the girl smiled. A real smile, small but sincere. "Thanks," she said softly. The next day was about to bring something none of them expected. Cena's words had started a ripple. The biker's guilt was turning into determination. And the girl, who had spent most of her life trying to stay unnoticed, was about to become the reason someone changed for the better. The town didn't know it yet, but a lesson about kindness was quietly unfolding. One that would soon remind everyone that respect is more powerful than pride, and that a single act of compassion can rewrite an entire story. The day after John Cena's visit, the whole town seemed to buzz with quiet talk. People were still amazed that he had shown up at the local school and given such a powerful message. Students kept repeating parts of his speech, and teachers said they'd never seen the hall so silent before. But for the biker, that day felt different. The morning sunlight came through his small apartment window, and for the first time he didn't jump out of bed ready to ride. He sat on the edge of his bed staring at his boots for a long time. His jacket hung on a chair nearby, still dusty from the road. He thought about what had happened 2 days ago. The girl's face, her eyes filled with hurt, the laughter from the crowd, and then Cena's calm but firm voice at the diner. "Strength isn't about making others feel weak." Those words kept echoing in his mind like a bell he couldn't silence. He rubbed his face, sighing deeply. It wasn't like him to feel guilty. Usually he brushed things off and moved on. But this time it stuck. Maybe because someone he respected had called him out. Maybe because deep down he knew Cena was right. He got up, made a cup of coffee, and sat by the window. Kids were walking to school, laughing and chatting. He saw them every day, but now it felt different. He wondered if any of them looked at him the same way that girl had. Scared, embarrassed, small. The thought made his chest tighten. He grabbed his keys, but this time he didn't put on his leather jacket or his loud attitude. He just rode his bike quietly toward the town square. The engine still rumbled, but he didn't rev it like he used to. It was almost as if he didn't want anyone to notice him. At the diner, the same waitress smiled politely as he sat down. "The usual?" she asked. He nodded but didn't say much. When she left, he glanced out the window again. Across the street, a few kids in school uniforms were helping a younger boy pick up a dropped lunchbox. No laughter, no teasing, just quiet help. He smiled faintly. Maybe that speech really did something. After finishing his coffee, he sat there for a while, lost in thought. Then he did something unexpected. He asked the waitress, "Hey, you know where I could find the principal of that high school nearby?" She looked a little surprised. "The school?" "Yeah, just a few blocks down. Why?" He hesitated, unsure how to answer. "Just got something to make right?" The waitress nodded slowly, sensing it wasn't her place to ask more. When he reached the school, he parked his bike at a distance and took a deep breath. He wasn't sure what he was doing. He had never apologized to anyone in his life, not like this. He'd always been the kind of man who believed saying sorry was a sign of weakness. But now he realized not saying it was even worse. He walked into the school office. The lady at the front desk looked up. "Can I help you?" He cleared his throat. "Yeah, I was wondering if I could talk to your principal for a minute." "It's important." The lady studied him for a second. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, ma'am," he said quickly. "But it's about something that happened here a few days ago." She hesitated, then picked up the phone. After a short conversation, she said, "All right, you can go in." When he stepped into the office, the principal looked up from her desk, curious. "Yes, how can I help you?" He stood there awkwardly for a moment, then said, "I think I owe one of your students an apology." The principal blinked. "An apology?" He nodded. "Yeah, I was outside your school 2 days ago. I said something I shouldn't have. Hurt a kid's feelings. I didn't think much of it then, but now I can't stop thinking about it." The principal's expression softened a little. "That was you?" He nodded again. "Yes, ma'am. I was an idiot. I thought it was funny. It wasn't." She studied him carefully. "Well, I appreciate you coming here. Not many people admit when they're wrong. The student you're talking about, she's in class right now. I can call her if you'd like to talk." He swallowed hard. His palms felt sweaty. "Yeah, please." A few minutes later, the door opened quietly. The girl stepped in, her hands clutching her books. When she saw him, she froze, her eyes wide. The biker took a deep breath. "Hey," he said softly. "I know you probably don't want to see me, but I needed to say something." She didn't reply. She just stood there, nervous, glancing at the principal for reassurance. He continued, his voice low. "What I did was wrong. I thought I was being funny. I wasn't. I made you feel small for no reason, and that's on me. I'm sorry." The girl looked surprised. She had never imagined she would hear those words from him. He rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. "You didn't deserve that. No one does. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I wanted you to know I'm really sorry." The principal nodded approvingly. The room was quiet, and for a moment it felt like the weight that had hung between them was slowly lifting. Finally, the girl spoke in a small voice. "Thank you." The biker exhaled in relief. "I'll, make it up somehow. Maybe help out around here if you ever need volunteers or something." The principal smiled faintly. "We actually have a community event next week. We could use help setting things up." He nodded quickly. "I'll be there." When he left the office, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not pride, not relief, but genuine peace. For the first time, he felt like he had done something right. That same afternoon, as he walked past the community center, he saw Cena again, helping move boxes of supplies. Cena looked up and recognized him instantly. The biker hesitated, then walked over. "Hey," Cena looked at him calmly. "Hey, I went to the school," the biker said. "Told her I was sorry." Cena's lips curved into a small smile. "That took guts." The biker shrugged. "Didn't think it would." "But it did," he paused. "You were right. It's not about being strong. It's about not using your strength the wrong way." Cena nodded slowly. "That's something most people take a lifetime to learn." They stood there in silence for a moment, the wind carrying the sound of kids laughing nearby. The biker looked down, thoughtful. "I don't know what I'll do next, but maybe I can start helping out at the center or the school. Feels like I owe this town something." Cena patted him on the shoulder. "That's a good start. You don't have to be perfect. Just try to be better than you were yesterday." The biker nodded. "Yeah, I can do that." Later that week, he showed up at the school again, this time with a toolbox and a calm expression. He helped fix a broken bench, painted part of the school fence, and even repaired the girl's backpack strap that had torn. The students watched quietly, surprised to see the same man who had once made fun of someone now working silently to make things right. The girl saw him from a distance. She didn't say anything at first, but when she walked by, she gave him a small smile. He nodded back respectfully. That small exchange said more than words could. By the end of the day, the principal came out and said, "Thank you for helping." He smiled a little. "It's the least I can do." The teachers whispered to each other about how much he had changed. The students told their parents that the scary biker from before was now fixing school benches and helping the janitor. Word spread quickly, and the story began to travel through town. From coffee shops to grocery stores, everyone wanted to know what had made him change. Some said it was guilt. Others said it was John Cena's influence. But the truth was simpler. It was empathy. The moment he saw how deeply he had hurt someone, something inside him shifted. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, he walked back to the diner. The waitress looked at him curiously and said, "You look different today." He chuckled. "Maybe I am." When he sat down, he glanced at the kids outside again. Some were laughing, some helping each other with bicycles. He smiled quietly. For the first time, he felt like he was part of something better. The town wasn't just a place to pass through anymore. It was a place where he had learned something real, that one moment of kindness can fix 1,000 wrong ones. As for Cena, he didn't take credit or talk about it to anyone. He knew real change doesn't happen because of fame. It happens when someone chooses to do better, and that choice, when made by a biker who once laughed at a schoolgirl, was only the beginning of something far bigger than either of them knew. The following week came quietly, yet it carried a feeling of change in the air. The biker kept his promise and showed up at the school early in the morning, before most students arrived. He brought his tools, a can of paint, and a steady determination to make things right. The janitor greeted him with a cautious smile. "Back again?" he asked, wiping his hands with a cloth. "Yeah," the biker said, setting down his toolbox. "Got a few things I didn't finish last time. Thought I'd fix the swing set out back." The janitor nodded. "That'd be nice. Those swings have been squeaking for months." As the biker worked, he noticed a few kids watching him from the classroom windows. They whispered to each other, surprised to see him wearing work gloves instead of his leather jacket. One of them even waved shyly. He lifted a hand back, just a small gesture, but it made them grin. By the time the school bell rang, the swings were repaired and freshly painted. The biker wiped sweat from his forehead, looking at them with quiet satisfaction. It wasn't much, but it felt meaningful. When the students came out during their break, they ran straight to the swings. Their laughter filled the air as they took turns playing. The sound felt different this time, not mocking, not cruel, so just innocent joy. The biker stood nearby, watching with a faint smile. The same girl walked past him, her repaired backpack slung neatly over her shoulder. She stopped for a moment and said softly, "They look nice." He turned and nodded. "Thanks. I figured they needed some fixing." There was an awkward pause, then she added, "You didn't have to do that." "I know," he said quietly, "but sometimes you should fix what's broken, even if you're the one who broke it." The girl smiled gently, and for the first time he saw no fear in her eyes, only kindness. She walked away, leaving him standing there with a feeling he hadn't known for years. Peace. Later that afternoon, the principal approached him as he was cleaning up his tools. "You've done more in 1 week than some people do in years," she said kindly. "The kids are starting to look up to you." He gave a small, almost embarrassed laugh. "I'm just trying to make up for being an idiot." The principal smiled. "Maybe, but you're also showing them something powerful and that people can change." He didn't reply right away. He just nodded slowly, feeling the truth in her words. That evening, he stopped by the community center again, where John Cena was wrapping up another volunteer event. The place was buzzing with activity. Kids practicing sports, volunteers arranging chairs, and local families chatting. Cena spotted him and waved. "You're making this a habit," Cena said with a grin. The biker smiled faintly. "Guess I am." Cena nodded toward his hands, still covered in paint. "Looks like you've been working." "Fix the swings," the biker said. "Kids seem happy." "Feels good to see that." Cena gave a short nod. "Told you, using your strength to make others smile changes everything." The biker leaned against the wall, watching the people inside the hall. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "I used to think people who helped others were just pretending to be good. But now, I get it. It's not about looking good. It's about doing something that matters." Cena looked at him with quiet pride. "Exactly." For the first time, the biker felt like he belonged somewhere. The community center started calling him whenever they needed an extra hand. He helped carry boxes, fix broken furniture, and even set up tents for outdoor events. The kids who once stared at him in fear now greeted him with smiles and waves. Parents who used to avoid eye contact started thanking him. He didn't crave attention, but every kind word made him realize how powerful a second chance could be. A few days later, The school held a small community fair. Families came with their children. There were food stalls, music, and games. The girl who had once been humiliated stood near the art display, helping her teacher arrange paintings. She looked happy, more confident than before. The biker was there too, helping organize parking for visitors. When he saw her, he gave a small nod. She waved back this time, not out of obligation but with genuine friendliness. In the middle of the fair, Cena arrived quietly. He wasn't there as a celebrity but as part of the community. People greeted him warmly, shaking his hand, thanking him for his visit to the school. He spotted the biker standing near the entrance and walked over. "This place looks great," Cena said. The biker smiled. "Yeah, the kids worked hard for it. Feels nice seeing everyone together." Cena looked around, then turned back to him. "You see what one choice can do? A week ago, this place was just another town. Now look, people are talking about kindness, helping each other, standing up for what's right." The biker nodded. "Never thought I'd be part of something like that." Cena smiled. "You already are." As the fair went on, a teacher asked the biker if he could help announce the raffle prizes. He hesitated, unused to speaking in front of people, but Cena nudged him lightly. "Go on. You've got this." Taking a deep breath, the biker walked up to the small stage. He held the microphone awkwardly and said, Hi everyone. I'm not great at speeches, so I'll keep it short. I just wanted to say thank you for letting me help out, for being kind, and for showing me what real strength looks like. I've learned that it's not about how tough you are. It's about having the courage to admit when you're wrong and to make things right." The crowd clapped. The girl smiled from her spot near the art display, and Cena gave him a proud nod. After the event ended, the sun began to set, painting the sky in soft orange light. The fair slowly quieted down, but the feeling of togetherness stayed in the air. The biker helped clean up, folding chairs and collecting trash. Cena stayed beside him, stacking tables. "You did good today," Cena said. The biker looked up. "Feels strange hearing that," Cena laughed. "Get used to it." They worked in silence for a while. Then the biker said softly, "You know, I used to think I had everything figured out. That being tough meant not caring about anyone. Turns out caring takes a lot more strength." Cena smiled. "That's the kind of strength that lasts." When everything was packed away, the biker sat on the steps outside the school, watching the lights go out one by one. The air was cool and the sound of crickets filled the quiet. He thought about the past few days, the apology, the repairs, the laughter of the kids, and the way the girl had smiled. For the first time in years, he didn't feel lost. He felt useful. The next morning, he woke up early again, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He rode his bike through the town, not with arrogance this time, but with calm. People waved as he passed by, and he waved back. He stopped near the park where a few kids were setting up a soccer game. One of them called out, "Hey, mister, want to play?" He chuckled. "I'm not that young anymore. Come on," the boy insisted. He smiled and joined in, running clumsily across the field, laughing as the kids outran him easily. For the first time, he wasn't trying to prove anything. He was just living, simply, honestly. Later, he sat under a tree catching his breath when Cena walked up again, holding 2 bottles of water. "Didn't think I'd see you playing soccer," Cena said with a grin. "Didn't think I'd ever want to," the biker replied. Cena handed him a bottle and sat beside him. "You've come a long way." The biker nodded, looking out at the field where the kids were still playing. "Guess I just needed someone to remind me that being strong isn't about fear. It's about kindness." Cena smiled, a proud, quiet kind of smile. "You reminded yourself. I just gave you a nudge." They sat there in silence for a while, watching the sunset. The biker's heart felt lighter than it had in years. As the sky darkened, he turned to Cena and said, "You know, I'm thinking of starting something here. Maybe a small workshop, teaching bike repairs to kids, maybe even giving them safety lessons. Something good." Cena looked at him, impressed. "That sounds perfect. You've got the heart for it." The biker nodded. "I owe this town that much. And I owe that girl more than an apology. I owe her a better version of me." Cena smiled. "Then that's exactly what you're becoming." The wind blew softly through the trees as the 2 men sat in comfortable silence. The world around them felt different now, kinder, quieter, more hopeful, and though no one else saw it happen, that single act of courage and an apology had begun a chain reaction that turned pain into purpose and a moment of humiliation into a story of redemption that would inspire everyone in town for years to come. A few months had passed since that day at the school fair, and the small town had started to change in quiet but powerful ways. The biker's story had spread through whispers, retellings, and word of mouth. Nobody exaggerated it. People just shared how a man who once hurt someone came back to fix his mistakes and turned into one of the kindest people around. He didn't see himself as a hero. Every morning he still got up early, brewed his coffee, and rode his bike through town. But this time his rides had a purpose. He stopped by the school every week, checking on the playground equipment or helping the janitor with small repairs. Sometimes he even taught a few students how to change a bike tire or fix a chain. They started calling him Coach, though he never asked for the title. John Cena kept in touch too. He would visit when his schedule allowed, sometimes just for an hour or two. They would sit by the same tree near the park, watching kids play and talking about simple things, life, choices, and how small acts of kindness can ripple through entire communities. One afternoon, Cena arrived unannounced. He walked into the small workshop the biker had opened in an old shed near the school. Inside, a few students were learning how to handle tools safely. The walls were lined with wrenches, helmets, and bike parts neatly organized. When Cena stepped in, the kids gasped. One of them whispered, "That's John Cena." The biker laughed. Yeah, don't make a big scene. He's just here to check if I've been doing my homework." Cena grinned and said, "Looks like you've been doing more than that." He shook hands with the kids, asked them what they were learning, and listened patiently as they showed him the small repairs they had done. The atmosphere was warm and full of pride. It wasn't about fame. It was about community. After the kids left, Cena looked around the workshop. "You built all this yourself?" he asked. The biker nodded. "With some help from the locals." Everyone chipped in, the principal, a few parents, even the janitor. "Guess people like fixing things after all," Cena smiled. "That's what it's all about. Not just fixing bikes, but fixing the world around you, one piece at a time." The biker leaned on the table, looking thoughtful. "Funny thing is, I used to ride just to escape everyone. Now I ride to meet them," Cena chuckled. "That's a good kind of change." They spent the rest of the afternoon talking and sharing stories from their past. Cena told him about times when he felt misunderstood or struggled with the pressure of fame. And the biker opened up about his rough childhood, how he grew up thinking that showing emotions made him weak. "I guess I was wrong," the biker said quietly. "Turns out admitting you were wrong takes more courage than pretending to be right." Cena nodded slowly. "That's real strength." That night, after Cena left, the biker stayed behind in the workshop. He sat at the small desk where he kept his tools and wrote something on a piece of paper. It was a note he planned to put on the wall, a message for anyone who walked in. It said, "Being strong isn't about how loud you are. It's about how gently you can lift someone who's fallen." He pinned it up with a small smile, then locked the door and rode home under the streetlights. The town was quiet, the air cool, and the stars scattered above like little reminders that even the smallest light could shine through darkness. Over the next few weeks, the workshop became more than just a place to fix bikes. Parents brought their kids there not only to learn skills but also to listen. The biker often shared short talks about respect, kindness, and making better choices. He never preached. He just spoke from the heart. The students listened because they could feel that he meant every word. The girl he once humiliated was one of his regular visitors now. She had forgiven him long ago, but what impressed her most was how much he had changed. She often stayed late to help him organize tools or paint the walls. One evening, as they packed up, she said, "You know, I never thought someone could change this much." He smiled. "Neither did I." She looked around the workshop, then said, "I think people look up to you now." He laughed softly. "If that's true, then I better keep doing the right thing." "Don't want to disappoint them," she smiled back. "You won't." Time went by, and soon the town announced a special event, a community appreciation day to honor local heroes who made a difference. The biker didn't expect to be mentioned, but when the day came, his name was called.